How's it going, super friends? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about them DC Comics Holy Grail action figures. You know, those figures that you just never seem to be able to get your hands on because they're either way out of your price range for some reason or another, or you've just maybe let slip through your hands or never found them because of poor distribution in the first place. For whatever the reason, we've all got action figures, in this case, specifically DC Comics ones, that we've never managed to get our sticky little grubby collector fingers on. Well, I'm sure you have your list, but today, this one is mine. Now, before we get into my list of grails, I would like to just take a moment to thank everyone who took time out of their day to go to the TNI Toy News forum and go and cast their vote for Action Figure Reviewer of the Year. A big thank you for those of you who voted for me, and if you would like to go cast a vote and you haven't yet, you still have until January 25th to make your voice heard over on the TNI Toy forums. Now back to that grail list. So for me, my list, only the top 3 are going to be ordered. The rest of them are in no particular order because I have a hard time saying which ones are more important to me than others. So the first one I'll mention is the 1991 Batman Returns Robin figure from Kenner. The first and only time I ever saw it out in the wild was at a Sears department store hanging on the pegs along with the rest of the Batman Returns action figures. For some reason or another, I didn't have the money for it and my parents wouldn't buy it for me because if I remember correctly, I'd probably already spent my allowance and then some on G.I. Joes. So I never got it, and I never knew any friends that ever had this action figure, so I could never trade them something for it. I just never got it as a kid. I'm not really sure why I haven't bought it as an adult because I've seen it all over eBay. It's definitely easy to find, and it's not even like it's that expensive. Why don't I have it? Another figure on my list of grails is an original Mego Superman figure. I'm talking one of the original first run Mego Superman action figures, mint on card. It goes for an arm and a leg on Evil Bay, so it's really hard to find one for a good price. And the occasional time I find one that is not too expensive, I've got, again, other squeakier wheels demanding the oil. So it remains on my grail list. And how about that Attack Armor Batman? There's another grail. I mean, sure, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I do have one, except for I long ago started pilfering it for parts to make other figures. It was never released in North America, so its distribution is really, really limited. I'm pretty sure it was just a European release. And so finding it, especially in the North American market, is actually fairly difficult. It comes up from time to time on eBay, but always sells for a buttload of money. I would like to have a second one, mint on card, that I add to my collection, and I don't keep very many things mint on card, but I would like to have that one unpunched. Another figure on my grail list is actually the Superpowers Cyborg, and I can technically add Shazam to it as well, and really also the Riddler, the Super Amigos Riddler. I could maybe slump 3 figures into this. For one, the Cyborg and the Shazam are just incredibly rare to find them in mint condition or even on card, so that's why they're grails. They're just so cost prohibitive. And the same thing goes with that Super Amigos. The Super Amigos Riddler, everyone knows, is a weird oddity because it's a repainted Superpowers Green Lantern. The Super Amigos Riddler was never released to a North American market, and so it's incredibly hard to find. It's even more rare than Cyborg and Shazam. So if I had to pick one of the 3, I would still absolutely pick the Super Amigos Riddler, just on rarity alone. But technically all 3 of those figures are grails. The next one on my list is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive 30-inch Mattel DC Infinite Heroes Anti-Monitor figure. It's so rare. I don't think very many of them were ever produced. Maybe 1 or 2, I'm not sure of the exact number. But someday, like an old man with a train set in his house with all the trees and the buildings, the whole diorama, and he has to climb under the table and pop out in the middle and he can use the trains in there. I'd like to do something like that in my office, only with the entire room being taken up by a cityscape diorama, and then have all of my DC figures in a great big, battle or something like that. In amongst that, it's important that if I'm gonna have Anti-Monitor, he's gotta be huge. Big, 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 big. Seriously, you can't have Anti-Monitor and not have him be massive. That's the most memorable Anti-Monitor, when he was ginormous. But he's on my grail list because he's so rare, and again, cost prohibitive to get your hands on because he's so rare. So he'll probably stay on my list forever. Another grail for me is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Swamp Thing. And much like the Robin, you can find him all over the place on eBay, and I've just never picked him up on account of the whole squeaky wheel thing. There's always something else I need to pick up before I could put the money towards Swamp Thing. He doesn't even go for a super exuberant price. I've just never got him, but he is on that grail list. He is one that I would eventually really like to get my hands on. Someday I'm sure I'll bite the bullet and pick him up off eBay. He won't be on this grail list forever, but for right now, that's where he is. He's one of my grails. Now the last grails I want to talk about, we're down to the last 3, are all going to be in order, with number 3 being the never released DC Universe Classics Modern, as in pre-New 52, Red Tornado. That figure never saw, as far as I know, he never saw an actual real retail release. Not on Amazon, and not out in the wild at, say, Target, Kmart, or Walmart. I mentioned it before in my previous hard-to-find rare DC Universe Classics figures alongside the never-released light blue Superman, the Naked Cheetah, the Build-A-Figure Giganta. He's more like the light blue Superman in that he never actually got released. However, I managed to get my hands on 3 of the light blue ones over the years on eBay, and the Naked Cheetah is an actual figure release. She was actually released in her completely naked form at one point. She's just really rare because there were 3 Cheetah variants, and she was the rarest of the variants. But when you ordered Cheetah on Amazon, sometimes you got one of the ones with the black clothing and sometimes you got a naked one. So even though she's expensive, there still are plenty of her floating around on the secondary market. They're expensive, but they're there. Since putting up my rarest DC Universe Classics action figure video, I think there have been some people who have playfully trolled me and said, I've got that one. I don't think anyone really does because it was never actually released and everyone probably just has the yellow Gauntlet Red Tornado. There's one of him up right now on eBay, the same one that was on eBay when I made the last video, and he's still an arm and a leg and I will still never be able to afford him. But he is on that grail list. My second DC Comics action figure Holy Grail is the DC Direct Cyborg Superman action figure. That one is actually quite difficult to get your mitts on without having to fork out an arm and a leg for. I can't afford him, he's out of my price range at the price that he typically goes for on the secondary market. I'm aware that DC Collectibles will be releasing a Cyborg Superman figure in their DC Essentials line. However, I don't believe it'll have nearly the sculpting detail or accurate body proportions as the original DC Direct version. But he's so expensive that I likely won't be getting him anytime soon. I probably will pick him up someday. He'll be one of the ones that eventually I can tick off the list, but I probably won't be getting him anytime soon. And for the final figure on my DC Comics action figure Holy Grail list, it is the Ideal Novelty Co. Superman action figure. It's the first Superman action figure that's ever been made. It was fairly big, made out of wood, has a cloth goods cape, very, very classic looking, very representative of the vintage kind of toys of that era. But it's so cost prohibitive, it's so expensive, that to find one that is in really good condition is almost impossible. Like, you have to go to an auction or you have to pay out the nose on eBay for one that may pop up occasionally. There's one on eBay right now and it's selling for like $11,000 Canadian. That is so far out of my price range, it might as well be on another planet. Alas, my number 1 action figure Holy Grail will likely remain on my Holy Grail list until the day I kick the bucket. So that's my DC Comics action figure Holy Grail list as it currently stands. I'm sure over time I'll be able to tick some off while others will remain on there forever, and I'm sure other characters will be added to it over time as well, which is cool because that gives you something to strive for in your collecting. And you know what? I'm sure that your DC Comics action figure Holy Grail list is completely different than mine. Let me know down in the comment section below what your DC Comics action figure Holy Grails are, because I would love to know. And with that, that's all the time I have today to make this video, so thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, please bop it with a like. If you want to see more of my face and hands show up in your inbox, just smash the subscribe button, become a super friend, a member of the DC squad, and remember to doink the bell if you want to get notified of when I make new videos. And I will see you next time with the next one. Have an awesome day, super friends. Take care.